All right, see how we're kicking off the year. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof A124 is here, the third release after Heaven Hill announced that it would be dropping the 12-year age statement and shifting to ages that could either be higher or lower than 12 years. The first two releases after the change, B523 coming in at 11 years and 5 months, and the exceptional C923 aged 13 years and 7 months. Now, since B523 was arguably an average batch at best, and C923 being exceptional, the A124 coming in at 10 years and 9 months old could finally make all the bourbon geeks out there lose their mind. Is this a turning point? Is this a pattern? Come right back. It's the Mash and Drum. What's up, folks? I'm Jason C from the Mash and Drum, and welcome back to the show. Like, subscribe, and help me hit that 100,000 subscriber mark for 2024. Now, when Heaven Hill announced the change to these age statements, and with them becoming more variable, most folks thought we would see ages lower than the standard 12-year that we all loved. Now, being only the third release since the big change was announced, I don't think we can definitively sense a lower age pattern yet, given we have seen an 11-year, a 13-year, and now a 10-year. But given bourbon drinkers' penchant for being pessimists anytime anything changes, the 10-year, 9-month age statement on the A124, I think will give a lot of ECBP fans some pause, especially coming off that 13-year, 7-month-old C923. The second detail that could give Elijah Craig Barrel Proof fans some hesitation is the lower proof point coming in at 119 proof. If you think this is the lowest batch of ECBP ever, you'd be wrong, with the B521 coming in at 118.2 proof. However, it's not far off. It was going to be difficult for any batch of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof to follow the C923 from last year, but the stats on this bottle really don't help its case. So with all that said, in case you need a refresh, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof A124 is bottled at 119 proof on the dot, with an age statement of 10 years and 9 months. It's non-chill filtered and priced with an SRP of about 70 to 75 bucks. All right, so let's dive right in. Here we go. For me, this is pretty much what I would expect from a Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. You get your vanillas, your caramels, get some brown sugar there, but for me, the one outlier here, which is surprising, is kind of an introduction of rye spice to the nose. I feel like this is a little bit more rye heavy. I'm getting more of kind of an orange citrus and kind of an orange peel type aspect to it. Now remember, Elijah Craig's mash bill is 78% corn, 12% malted barley, and 10% rye, with rye being the lowest percentage of grain in the entire mash bill. But for this one, I get a lot of herbal and rye characteristics. It's interesting. We will compare this to C923 just to pull out some more differences, but I could already tell off the nose this isn't really going to be up to that C923 level. Yeah, sweet herbal. Definitely get this like this red pepper flake note in here, which is really interesting. I cook with red pepper all the time, so when you open that jar, there's this crushed red pepper flake thing going on, which is really crazy. But it still balances out with that sweetness. It's got some nice toasted oak notes, a little bit of barrel char, not a lot. I'm not really getting like that heavy rickhouse smell. It's a little bit lighter and brighter than I think what we've been used to. So let's give it a try. So this is my second pour of this one. I never really like to review, a bourbon off of the first pour in the bottle. But I will say, I know everyone's gonna be like, oh, this is only 119 proof, but when you sip this, it drinks hotter. This has a lot of spice. Again, that herbal rye spice quality that comes in. Now, I'm not really sure. I'm trying to gauge whether it's the spice or if it's the proof that's kind of doing everything. I'm more inclined to think it's the spice because the proof isn't really that high, being 119 proof, at least for an Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, in that sense. I know 119 is probably pretty high for a lot of people, but. So second sip, that rye spice does play a big role from the mid to back palate. You really get that punch of spiciness to it. It's like a combination of like that black peppercorn and that the red pepper flakes that I was getting. Because the spice really does hit immediately, but on the mid palate is where you kind of get your caramels, your vanillas, your brown sugars. Again, that toasted oak, and again, that little hint of like a citrus note, that orange peel coming through for me. It's got this lingering finish here from all that spice too. I mean, this really does come off higher than 119. Yeah, so up front, you know, that sweetness does hit, but so does that spice, kind of mid-palate. I think you get a little bit more of that citrus note that comes to the forefront. You might get a slight hint of dark fruit here, but it hasn't really opened up for me to that aspect. I'm just getting a lot of the orange peel, the citrus, and that herbal quality to it. Then on the very end, you get a little more like that black, the black peppercorn, maybe the red pepper flake, a little bit of toffee on the back end too, a little spice, maybe a slight hint of tobacco there too on the back end of it. I think this probably will lack some depth for some people, and it's a little bit spicier than I think with what we're used to with the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, especially the last few batches being a little bit on the sweet side, a little bit more of a sweet heaviness. This is spice. If you like spice, this is a very spice-driven Elijah Craig Barrel Proof to me. Yeah, I mean, the sweet definitely kind of balances out, and if your palate is a little bit more sensitive to sweet versus spice, you may pick up more sweet flavors than what I'm picking up, but I think the spiciness of this is the outlier. The spiciness of this is what's kind of making this a little bit more of a different batch than we've seen, I think. I'm trying to even think of a batch that's been this spice-driven in a little while. I would have to go back and try some other ones or watch some old reviews, but let's, for the fun of it, let's compare it to the C923 and see where those real differences are. All right, so the C923 was an absolute beast. 13 years, 7 months old, 133 proof. Looking at it stat-wise, you're like, man, there's no way that this A124 has a chance. These are pretty far apart. Even when I'm looking at the glasses right here like this, you could see a definite color difference here. Yeah, I mean, immediately off the bat, the C923 has way more of an oak presence. That rickhouse-ness that we all love from C923, I think, is definitely prevalent. And another huge difference is that the C923, it's a lot sweeter. Again, A124, much more spice-driven. Let's try the C923. The C923 is a beast. I don't care what laser code you have. It's just a damn good bourbon. I'm actually picking up like a grape note in this C923. I mean, it is just, every time I go back to this bottle, it just evolves a little bit. It's got the barrel char, and the finish on the C923 is different. It hits you, and then it just kind of has this really subtle, long, lingering spice and flavor to it that just kind of draws itself out over a little bit of time. Now the A124, is not as drawn out. It's a little bit more of a quick hit. It's got a lot of spice, like I said. You do get your Heaven Hill sweet characteristics. You're gonna get your vanilla cream, vanilla icing, however you wanna call it. You're gonna get your brown sugar here, your caramels. There's definitely some nice sweet oak there, but then as it kind of hits the mid palate, for me, it's still going orange and rye and herbal heavy with a lot of spice on the back end. But then once you get to the back of it, it is just all spice on the finish, and just, again, black pepper, red pepper, however you wanna, kind of separate those two. They're two completely different experiences. All right, I'm pretty used to these final breakdowns for Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, so let's do it real quick here. All right, final breakdown, the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof A124. Price on this one, $70 SRP. Resale market value, they usually start off at about $150, but if the batch doesn't catch on as a really good batch, they start dipping down real low, and they probably get close to MSRP. But in the beginning, it's about 150 bucks. Availability, as I always say, is wonky. It really just is going to depend on what state you live in, and when you see these, you could see this now, you could see it in 2 weeks, you could see it in 2 months, you could see it at the end of the year. It really is all dependent on your distributor and the state you're in. Value for these are always going to be either above average or they're going to be high. For me, this one, I would think it's above average. Even though it probably won't be a favorite batch of many, I still think what you get in a bottle is above average of some of the other things that are on the market at this price. Most I pay for this one, I'm gonna stick at that $70, $75 range. I wouldn't overpay for this one. It's not an exceptional batch, but I do dig it. Alternatives for this one, there's really only one alternative I could really think of that's close to this one, especially when you get to ages, and that's the Rare Breed from Wild Turkey. That's 116.8 proof. This is 119, so we're getting closer. But as the age statements on these get a little bit lower, we might be able to kind of broaden our scope of what is available on the market that's barrel proof, that the ages get closer. But until we see something below 10 years, we'll see. And finally, is this a skip? Is it a try before you buy, or is it a buy, or is it a buy and back it up? For me, these are always going to be a buy. I always think they're just great values. They are just great bourbons, especially for the price points. However, with all that said, I will say this. Even though I would recommend this Elijah Craig Barrel Proof A124, I would still say that this would gear toward more of a drinker that likes their bourbon spicy. I'll tell you right now, this does not live up to what C923 was, and I think because of that, this batch might get a lot of negative commentary on it. I could just kind of feel it coming. Not sure if that's going to happen, but I just feel like there will be a lot of negative commentary around this bottle, especially coming off C923. And this is kind of the lowest age statement we've seen from an annual release standpoint. Now look, Heaven Hill does release 8, 9, 10-year-old store picks of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, so it's not like we haven't seen something that young, but I do understand everyone losing their mind as the age statements get lower and lower. But again, if you like a spicier profile, the black pepper, the red pepper, some of that little bit of a citrus note, this gears more towards spice than sweets, and I kind of dig it. I think it's different, but if you're looking for one of those really sweet forward Elijah Craig barrel proof batches, while there is a good amount of sweet there, I do think that the mid to back palate is just all spice driven. And look, before we all freak out, remember this is just the third release since they made the change to variable age statements, so we'll see how the patterns progress. Who knows? Once May comes around for B524, we may see a 13-year, a 14-year. We don't know what age statements they could throw in those batches. So before everyone starts losing their mind over the 10-year, 9-month age statement, let's see how it progresses. Either way, it's a good bottle of bourbon. Again, more spicy than sweet, but still a damn good bourbon for the price. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the review for the new Elijah Craig Barrel Proof A124. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. And if you haven't yet, find me on Instagram. Sound off down in the comments. Let me know what you think of the age statement. Are you out on this bottle just because of the age statement? Do you want to still get it because you've been a loyal Elijah Craig Barrel Proof fan over the years? Do you want it to live up to the C923? And like I said, it's not going to. However, let me know down in the comments what your thoughts on it. And as I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. Cheers, and I'll see you next time right here on The Master and Drum. Take care, guys.